Would you, Miss Bergman, set up the short clip that we have, and there's a mysterious black spot in the middle of it, which is simply editing. I mean, there's a little moment in the middle.
Where do we have
it's not censorship, but if you could tell us a little bit about perhaps where this occurs in the film and what to look for. It's the scene in which you will be playing, the one you spoke of earlier, where you're watching your daughter, played by Liv Ullmann, play the piano, and it's an incredible moment in movie history, I think. And no less, where we see a great deal going on in your face. Maybe that's enough to
well, maybe that's what
it.
the scene that I explained.
That is
so
the
now
one.
you know what I'm thinking.
Well, I see you didn't realize which one we had. Here it is, and if they'd cut right in the middle of that, I could have still shown you the goose pimples on my arms. I've never, there's something about that in your face. The critic Stanley Kaufman, and I think others, have said that this perhaps is your finest work in your career. Does that
Isn't that lovely?
encourage or depress you?
No, I'm very happy that I still can do something that is better, because one thing is to start a career and you become either star overnight, or you struggle up to where people say, oh, she's a fine actress. And the trouble is to stay on top. It's awfully difficult to continue and surprise people and do something that they don't know already how you're going to do it. And so therefore I'm very happy. I try to surprise people in Murder on the Orient Express.
You certainly
by
did.
Playing exactly the opposite of what I've ever done before, you know, a very awkward and timid and frightened little Swedish girl. I could use my Swedish accent. And I've always wanted to surprise people, either on the stage or in a movie. And I'm delighted that this time it worked.
Yes. I heard a tape that someone made, a press conference you gave, in which you told the story of how many years you pursued, in a sense, the making of a movie with Ingmar Bergman. And I think it started about 13 years ago and ended up with a reminder letter that you slipped into his pocket a few years back.
Yes, you see, I have seen so many of his movies, and I realized that the actors that he used were the same actors that other directors used, but they were never so good as when they were directed by him.
Yes.
So I felt that there must be something in him that he gives to actors that other directors cannot bring it out of them. After all, we are material, and it is the artist who has to do the sculpture of it. So when I met him, and that was about 13 years ago, at the Swedish embassy in Paris, he had come down with a play to give, we had those festivals, theater festivals in Paris. I met him, and we immediately had some kind of a feeling for each other and said, why don't we work together? I mean, this was the simplest thing in the world. So I said, of course, why not? And he said, I'll think of something. And then he went back to Sweden, and there was a little bit of correspondence regarding stories. There was a book he was thinking of, and then he said, no, I think I'll find something original that I'll write myself. And then he became director of the National Theatre, of our Royal Theatre, and I knew that that was such a big job to handle that he couldn't possibly do movies on the side. So I wrote him a letter saying that everybody else is terribly pleased, but I am not so pleased because I realize that our picture is now not going to be made anymore. So he wrote me an answer to that and said, don't worry, I'm only going to be director for this theatre for a certain amount of years, and then I'm going back to the movies. And my movie with you is written in fire over my forehead. It sounds better in Swedish.
Sounds pretty good this way.
But I thought the phrase was very funny, and I saved the letter, you see.
Yeah.
Then I was doing some cleaning, like we all do now and then. We'll take him by, let's get rid of all these letters and all these papers. And I started to throw out things, and I found his letter, and it was almost to the day 10 years old. And I had to go down to the Cannes Film Festival. I was president of the jury, and I knew he was coming to see, no, not to see, to show his Cries and Whispers.
Oh, yes.
And I thought that maybe in the middle of all the confusion between photographers and all the journalists and everybody that is at the Cannes Film Festival, which is it's an awful lot of people, but maybe I can get close enough to him and put a copy of that letter in his pocket. And of course, we were photographed together, and there was a big to-do about that. And I said to him, I'm putting a letter in your pocket, but don't read it until you get home. So he got the copy, and I still didn't hear from him for 2 years. So I thought, oh, he got hurt. He thought I was bitter. This is a nasty little joke. I just wrote underneath, time marches on, you know. We have to hurry up here. And after 2 years, he called me. And then he said, thank you for putting the letter in my pocket. I've been working ever since. I found the story, and it's going to be mother and daughter. And he told me over the phone, and then he sent me the script. And I had to call him back and say, how do you know all this dialogue? Because it was so much of the dialogue that is so true, and I think many mothers and daughters will recognize themselves. We've all had, to a certain extent, this kind of discussions with our daughters.
They're in for a good shaking up when they see the movie. I can guarantee them that. Well, I'm glad he didn't send that jacket to the cleaners with that letter in it.
Yes.